Hello everyone. I'm doing this video because I felt that it was a really long time that I wish to put online some content of what I think is maybe the best game today in regards to strategy games. I think that um, Endless Space 2 is one of the best, if not the best, 4X space set strategy game. And for that matter, it really is somewhere high in my personal ranking of strategy games, turn-based strategy games in general. The main features of this game are the fact that it is a 4X game, so it's exterminate, exploit, expand, explore type of situation. It is set in space in a fictional universe created by the publisher company, which is Amplitude Studios, which have done a wonderful and amazing job in the art, in the ergonomics, let's say, of the game, since it is super user friendly in regards to pages to scroll through, and just the information that comes from the screen to the player in regards to what is happening is actually one of the best I have ever encountered in a game. Um, and of course, the lore that is behind this game is something else. It really is it's a beautiful universe, really rich in meanings and in um, some specifics of each faction, each playable faction, and also the minor non-playable faction that are featured in the game are just so well thought and so deep in their gameplay and in their mechanics that I was just blown away by this game. I have more than 600 hours now, and I feel pretty comfortable to make a video about it. And the main topics want to be a general introduction to what I believe are the key aspects of navigating the game in order to understand what is going on and how to play it actually. And let's just dive right into it. This is the map screen. This is your galaxy. It's not always like this. There are different shapes and sizes. These are just average settings on a random galaxy. And as soon as we go a little bit further zooming in, we get to see the names of the various constellations. And zooming even further, we get to see all the various star systems divided by color, which are the factions that are playing. And even more in depth, we get to see the flotillas and the armies, the ships that you and other players control. Even further, we get to see the systems with a little bit more of detail. Let's go to my capital system, Othero. So you can see that there are some signs up here, some symbols that identify certain things that are pertaining to this particular system. First of all, it is my home system. It is the site of a trading company, which we'll talk about in a little bit. And we have the Dust-Shidius trees, which is a luxury resource, a Hyperium deposit, which is a strategic resource, and Mercurite, which is another luxury resource. It is indicated the amount of population that lives here and the current construction type. It also symbolizes the amount of planets that are present in the system. So in this case we have 4 planets, and from this point we can zoom even further, get to this particular screen which details all the planets. Now we'll get to this in just a moment, but given this premise, the most I think that the music is a little bit too let me just remove music. Well, it's actually not good without music. Let me put that back on. So the main box that you want to always look at is located in the upper left side of the screen. We have the Empire Summary, the Senate screen, the Economy screen, the Technology screen, the Military Status screen, the Hero Management, Quests and Events, and Diplomacy. We will look into each one of these. This is your total amount of dust, and it is written here even though it's kind of hard to see because it's in gray. Let me see if changing the background color. We are currently sitting on minus 13,648 gold per turn, but this game is recorded a turn before I win, so things get into motion. In particular, I'm making actually way more money than this amount because of the intergalactic market that I built, which applies a tax to all products that are bought and sold on the market. We'll see that in a little bit. This is your manpower indicator. Manpower is a specific feature of the game that concerns the amount of troops that are used both on ships and on systems. It is a byproduct of food production, and you can see the description in the box here below. Used to populate your ships and ground troops. Star systems dedicate a fraction of their growth, that is food, to contribute to the empire-wide manpower. Finally, we have influence. This is the diplomacy currency, let's say. It's the amount of currency that you must use in order to make deals in the diplomacy screen. This section is the current technology that you are researching. In my case, it's Might of the Endless. If you click on it, you get brought to the technology screen. We'll see this when we get to the appropriate tab. And down here we have all the strategic resources in the game. So there are 6 strategic resources that are discovered, or better yet, are exploitable once you research specific technologies, and you may consider them as sort of pairs of resources. So in the first tier of the industry, excuse me, on the economy and trade quadrant of the technology tree, you get to discover first of all titanium and hyperium, then adamantium and antimatter, and finally orichalcics and quadrinics. Now, these strategic resources are used both in the construction of buildings, but most of all, these strategic resources power your weapon modules on your ships. Let's see briefly. As I was saying, on the first tier, you get to exploit titanium and hyperium. Then you get to the third tier, which lets you put your hands on adamantium and antimatter. And finally, you get to the orichalcics refining and quadrinics capture. Now, in the military page, you can actually see that if I were to create, let's say, a new ship Sheridan class ship, which is a coordinator. You can see that in the weapon ship modules, I went on a projectile based strategy. So just for reference, in the technology screen also you get to unlock specific weapon type modules, which are located starting from the third tier on the military branch of the technology screen. So first distinction is between titanium guns, which are projectile, and Hyperion guns, which are energy. Then on the fourth tier, you get to distinguish between adamantium weapon modules and antimatter fueled modules. And finally, on the last military tech part of the quadrant, you get to choose between the which one is it? Orichalcix modules and the quadrinics. So basically, these ones are projectile based and are titanium, adamantium, and orichalcix, and these one are the energy ones, which are Hyperium, antimatter, and quadrinics. So as I was saying, if we were to create a new ship, let's use the Sopra. It's more cool. It's the military. It's more the attacker kind of hunter role ship. You see that in the weapon modules, these can be put inside the appropriate modules and customized in this manner. So getting a little bit lost here anyway, these are the main strategic resources. Now, starting from the Empire summary, you see that if it loads, you see that you have quite clean and descriptive pieces of information here. Of course, you get your main faction information, your empire traits, your empire approval. So if particularly good, you will receive some bonuses. If not good, you will get some debuffs, and the amount of systems that you have, slash the amount of systems that you can colonize before getting into overpopulation, which has negative effects on your happiness. The main portion of the Empire summary is this chart right here. Name, status, population, approval, hero, food, industry, gold, or better yet, dust, science, influence, the resources, the construction queue, the policy, and the ships that are deposited in the hangar. You can order these columns as you wish. You have at a glance what you're looking for based on the appropriate selection that you do. Policies, never really understood what they are. I just micromanage everything. Basically, I think it's just a way to set a particular system to move population types from one planet to another to obtain the maxed out setting that you desire. But I actually never used policies. And hangar, of course, if a ship is deposited in one of your systems, it will say 1 or 2 or 3 depending on how many ships are there. So this is the first tab, systems. In the tab victory, you get to see where you stand at the moment in regards to the particular victory type that you're looking for. I am currently first in science because I possess 3 out of the 4 required technologies of the Endless, which are located in the technology screen in these portions right here, the top ones. As I said, I'm at turn 258 out of 300 turns, so almost there. I already researched this, and this technology, which pertains the endless achievements, let's say, and I'm one turn away from the last endless technology. So it's the might of the endless. Um, and of course, you have different victory types. The economy, you have to make a certain amount of dust to win. A wonder, you must build 4 obelisks of all space-time, which are particular constructions that cost lots of resources and industry, but that grants you at the end victory. Score, if you deposit your mouse and leave it on the end turn button, you get to see your current score. Supremacy is to have all home systems of all factions. Conquest is to get, I think it's 20-30% of the galaxy. Kind of weak as a victory type. I mean, to really be a conqueror, I guess you would have to have at least 50% of the total map. There are some mods that ramp up this. I think there's a very interesting one which I actually played that ramps it up to obtain the 90% of the galaxy. So that's more challenging and more interesting, because once things start to move and then start to just go as planned, you will really find yourself, if you invest in military actions, you will really find yourself just torching system after system, even on the most hard difficulty. So nonetheless, it's still challenging anyway. And finally, science, from where we started. So this is your empire summary. Here you get to see everything. Super detailed. You get to see the unique planets, the number of population, if the system has a spaceport. Spaceports are, I'll show you right here actually. Let's get into the system planet. The spaceport is where you deposit units of population. We'll get to these in a little bit. You just select a population type, you put it in the spaceport, you click here, you select where you want to send it, and a ship will be formed, and it will send the population type that you deposited here at the desired system. So really useful. Of course, the hero tab shows you which hero is currently as an administrator on the system. Getting into the Senate screen, now this is your political overview of your empire. I currently have a democracy. I changed my government to have a democracy since I tend to, when I play with Empire, I really enjoy and have fun to have all the population types possible. So as long as there are representatives in the Senate, people will be more happy. And by the way, it's 1+1 approval per population on system, so that's a huge buff. You may change government if you meet certain requirements, such as in this case, if I were to change to dictatorship, I really must add 50 approval and 9,300 influence. You click on the desired government and you click on validate. It will trigger an anarchy period of 5 turns, and then you will get your desired government. Republic, by the way, is also a very good one because you get to intensify the laws that you enact. All of them have their perks and their bonuses and debuffs, and it's just a cool way to deal with population in a more specific and complex and really deep way. Yeah, you may ask for a survey, so you get to see which of the political parties will likely be elected. You can see your leading political parties. These are heroes of yours that serve in the Senate, and serving in the Senate, particular perks of your heroes may be put to use. in this case, let's say the perk clerical corrections can get a plus 0.5 deposit value on resource deposit, so quite good, and so on. Plus 25% manpower capacity on Empire for conscription genius. You get the point. If you have a hero that is serving as an admiral or a system administrator on the Senate, you get particular buffs. These are my active laws. Laws can really can hugely impact your game. They are not mandatory to win per se, but they represent a really cool way to further manage your empire. Some laws are very strong laws. Take for example Work Not Shrink Act. As you can see, all laws have a symbol that represents their political standpoint. In this case, Work Not Shrink Act is a industrial law, and you see that this particular law gives a +6 industry per population on planets. This means that there is your industry just skyrockets on your systems, letting you build in way less time ships and improvements. You can abolish a law by this in the screen, and by clicking here you get to see all the available laws in your empire, and you get to choose them, read their little description and the effects, of course, of the law. And finally, a population census based on the number of population type that exist. You get to see the total amount and yeah, basically who goes where. The population details is a very important page because it shows you all the different population types that you have in your empire and their current effects on planets. Keep in mind that this is the page in which you can boost a particular population. So let's say that I have 51 population of Neris in my empire, and they are currently producing +3 food on fertile planets and +2 food as a base. I happen to have 51 Eden incense. This is a luxury resource in my stockpile. So by clicking on this particular section, I get to boost my population and my Neris population, and look at what happens on the effects on planets section. It goes up to 6 food on fertile and 4 food as base. So this is to boost your population and obtain more from that particular population. They contribute to ecologist political party, and yeah, once you reach a particular amount of population in your empire, you get to unlock a particular law. So that's also a cool feature. And yeah, political output on the political side of things. So this kind of population, the more of this population you will have, the more it will be likely that in the elections the ecologist would win. Of course, in my case, I went Mezzari with the Empire, which are the scientific branch of the Empire, and they have a scientific output. So you can see that one of the most prominent political party is a scientific one, followed immediately, if not the same, by the militarists. Yeah, no, it's actually 168 versus 180 scientists, so scientists are in the lead. So yeah, this is a further way to manage your population. Just you get to see and enact cool laws, and it really shapes your game even further. Moving on to the economy screen. This one is also a very, very important screen to keep a look on. Now, first of all, let's see what we have on the most left part. This first tab shows you the dust inflation. Now, dust inflation is a mechanic that is present in the game that basically, as it says, it multiplies the value of a single piece of dust for the during time for the inflation that is occurring. So at turn 258 we have times 6.24 dust, but it's just as the game comes as it is. This is just a feature that is present. Then we have a trading company overview. Trading companies function as follows. You have to construct a company headquarter on a system and a subsidiary on another system. And how it works is that if you press the spacebar on your screen, you can see that, for example, I have a company trading, how's it called? Sorry. A company headquarter on Otero, which is the Ursa Major thing, and it might extend until the Hydros system. And basically how it works is that the more system it reaches, the more dust and resources it produces. And by the way, you can further enhance the amount of dust produced by clicking on these buttons and sending more ships to dedicate more ships to this particular trade route. As you see, trade routes generate dust, science, and also luxury resources that add up to your empire. 5 trading routes, for example, in this case, we have 0 blockaded trade routes and disabled trade routes. So the external trading subsidiary, I think that they, I'm actually sure that they begin to get visible once you have a trade agreement with another faction. But in this case, I do not, so it's reported 0. Finally, the luxury resources show you at a glance what luxury resources you have in your empire, and you see that they are shown under the element that they boost. So we have, let's say, Red Sang boosts food, Jadonics boosts industry, and so on. But what actually does this boost mean? Well, you have to develop your systems from level 1 to level 4 in order to progress in system development. So you start out when you build an outpost as an outpost with no actions that are during colonization. As soon as you send a colonization ship on a certain planet, you will receive an outpost. This outpost will take a certain amount of turns to become a tier 1 colony, and from there you have to level it up. And in order to level up, to develop a system, you need luxury resources. So at the level 2 modernization of a system, I chose the blue cap mold, probably because it was the resource that maybe I had most, or I managed to buy somehow. Anyway, what blue cap mold does to a system is to grant plus 60 science on that particular system. Now keep in mind that once that you choose a particular luxury resource to boost a system, that is no more toggleable. You cannot change that luxury resource anymore, so you must be very careful on the luxury resource that you intend to use to develop a system. And yeah, you get the point. Then you get to level 3. So in this case, if you use, you can see that luxury resources are divided into 3 tiers. So for tier 2, or better yet, for level 3 modernization, to use a tier 1 luxury resource um, is more expensive instead of using Proto Orchid, which is a tier 2 luxury resource, but nonetheless, still a luxury resource is required. So in my particular case, my level 3 systems will have a plus 60 food on them and plus 4 dust per population on the system. Obviously, a tier 1 luxury resource is worse than a tier 2 luxury resource that is also worse than a tier 3 luxury resource. So these ones at the bottom are the strongest, these ones are kind of okay, and these ones are the base ones. Now, the further luxury resources that you can get your hands on are unlocked by specific technology. In particular, technologies that grant you the capability to explore certain curiosities. Curiosities are located on planets, and they may reveal luxury resources, strategic resources, particular bonuses, ships, or they may be just grant you nothing at all. It's randomly it's a random mechanic inserted in the game that brings the player to explore and to find out what is actually deposited on systems. So that is the trade and resources panel. Moving on to the marketplace, this speaks for itself. Sellable items divided in strategics and luxuries. I can choose any item I wish and sell any quantity I wish to obtain dust. When I was talking about the intergalactic market, I constructed on the Justium system the market, and trading borrow it's actually called. And once you construct it, it's a wonder. You get to choose the amount of taxes to set that you will receive for all transactions that take place in the market. So I obviously pumped it up to the max because I wanted more dust, and it is 25%. So for all the transactions that happen in the market, I get 25% of that value, which is just a game changer, of course. It lets me maintain a huge army, which was briefly shown here before, but let me just show you. These are 93 ships, almost full. It's a huge amount of money that I'm spending, of course. It's 13,000, so for military upkeep, yeah, I think the dust image kind of scrambles during the end game, but or maybe not, I don't know, but it's a huge amount of money. Also the improvements on my systems and such, but mainly my military, I think, is the one that is consuming the most dust per turn. So given that I constructed the trading bureau, I will always be on positive dust. So that was that. I mean, strategics and luxuries to sell, and also the purchasable items. Of course, strategics, luxuries. You can also buy ships. I think I never ever bought one single ship from the market. I always produced them, but nonetheless, you may buy ships, and you get to see all the different stats of the different ships. And finally, once you unlock a particular technology, you may also buy heroes from the academy. Heroes, of course, can be used as system administrators or admirals of your ships. Since we are at it, let's just get into the heroes just briefly. in the Hero Management tab, you get to see all the heroes that you currently have active in your empire. If you click on one, you can inspect. You may also sell them. You may unassign, or you can show. You get to ask to show the current location. Once you double click, you get to see a brief recap of your hero, his ship, and his skills. So in this case, he's a warrior, of course. He is the admiral of a army that I have here, which is composed of 8 ships, and my hero also has his own ship. So to customize your hero ship, you may do it only when he is on one of your systems. So right now I can't, but it is done as we will get to the ship customization part in just a moment. The skills are represented in this particular sheet, and you can see that all heroes have their skills divided in 3 parts. You have a specific part that regards the type of hero. You have guardians, overseers, which depending on what type of hero he is, he will receive particular perks. In this case, given that he is a guardian, guardians focus on mainly war and fleet warfare, so the majority of skills that he will have will be connected to warfare. So let's say the post-relativistic targeting will grant at level 2 a plus 40% damage on fleet, which is huge. The last tier gets you a plus 25% damage on fleet, so that's the thing. This particular second part of the skill tree shows you that the faction perks that are typical of that particular faction, and this one is just the general part that all heroes, independent from type or faction, have. Okay, moving on. The technology screen. Now, we briefly saw this before. Basically, this tree is divided in 4 parts. We have a military part, an economy and trade part, science and exploration, and empire development. Now, you must first of all know that even though this is the military section and there are 2 huge ships here, you do not actually unlock the ship types from this quadrant. In this particular quadrant, you get to choose all the different weapon modules. You get to upgrade your command points, which are basically the metric that the game uses to measure your fleets. So the more command points you have, the more ships fleet can have. And you get to unlock all the different military focused buildings. Ships, on the other hand, are actually unlocked on this quadrant, on the empire development. And the first fundamental landmark is to unlock efficient shielding, which grants you the first medium-sized, or let's say small actually, military ships of the game. This is a technology that is for all factions, and depending on what faction you're playing with, you will have certain ships. So in this case, we get the Eget's Ray class and the Yeranef class. Moving on, we get to the medium ships with these 2 particular technologies, which are split-second ablatives and applied cryogenics. This one grants you the Sopron class, which you will use for the majority of your game, I guess, and the Sheridan class. You can upgrade the quantity of modules on the ship by researching these other 2 technologies. So in this case, we have an enhanced Sopron class and an enhanced Sheridan class. And finally, the biggest of them all, the Zelevas class, excluding behemoths, which maybe we'll cover just in a brief moment. The largest faction specific ship, the Empire Zelevas class. It's a large carrier on which you can load both weapon modules but also bombers and fighters. Speaks pretty clearly, other than that possible misunderstanding of the fact that ships are not unlocked on the military quadrant but on the Empire development. But nonetheless, you get the point. I mean, technologies related to scientific knowledge and exploitation are located in this quadrant. It must be noted that the colonization of planets also is unlocked on this quadrant, mainly because all of these technologies grant you the colonization of specific planets such as steppes or snow or savanna. You get the point. Even though in this quadrant, for example, you get to unlock the ash and lava and also gas, I think, somewhere. Yeah, gas giant. But nonetheless, they're just focused on this part of the technology screen. And the economy and trade, of course, unlock luxury resources and focus on dust generation buildings. Moving on to the military status. Now, you get to see the Empire manpower at a glance, and you get to choose your troops division. And with that, I mean that you can manage which kind of troops you want to use and you want to load on your ships and keep on your systems, basically divided into infantry, armor, and air units. You can choose the percentage of the certain type of units that you wish to have, and you can upgrade them. Now, unfortunately, in this case, I already upgraded them all, but I forgot to mention, you can unlock, you start by having infantry, you can unlock armor and air in the military quadrant. In particular, in this case, you unlock the tanks with this technology, and the air in this one. So as I was saying, you get to upgrade them, and it's basically a rock paper scissors thing against the AI, where I think that air is strong against infantry and armor is strong against air and infantry is strong against armor, I think, something like that. But basically you get the point. The more you have, the better, and the more upgraded they are, the better they perform in battle. To upgrade these, you will need manpower, dust, and strategic resources. Here you get to see the battle tactics section. Now, for those of you who might not know, battles in Endless Space 2 are fought using cards, which define certain specific formations during battle, plus grant you some particular perks, such as if I were to choose the Get Lucky formation, I would get a plus 70% damage bonus on critical hit on weapon modules, or if I use Plasma Distortion, my ships, or better yet, my flotillas will get in this particular formation, and for both fleets we would have a plus 25% shield penetration on weapon modules. You get the point. Except for the fact that during battle you do not move single ships, you actually don't interact during a battle as a player. Battles are purely cinematic, but you get to choose how you want to form your flotillas. Flotillas are groups of ships inside your fleet, to a maximum of 3 per battle, and you can see that depending on the particular battle tactic that you choose, they will be set up in a certain way. This tab reports the amount of behemoths, oh my god, I can't say this word, behemoths, that you have in your empire. You start out by having a maximum of one, and then you unlock further technologies and you get to construct them. I'll get to them in just a second. Fleets list, of course, just as the empire breakdown, this is sort of a military breakdown of all your fleets, all your ships actually, and it's reported the hero that is serving in the fleet. You can see I renamed them all because I'm a nerd. You can see the amount of ships and command points, better yet, the command points rather, that the ships, that the fleets are composed of, the health, the amount of manpower, the moving points, and so on and so forth. Ship designs, briefly shown you before. You can basically create your ships in this section. You may edit the ones that come in as pre-ordered one. I mean, not pre-ordered, but just the main ones. Or you can create them from scratch and just insert the hull that you upgrade in the technology screen as I showed you before in the Empire Development section quadrant of the technology screen, and you get to compose your ships. So I want the Zolia class that is very fast but can also provide a health bonus and use let's say this particular probe type and uses Orichalkix missiles. I can name it and click create design, and there I have it. It's my strange looking exploration ship. You can also delete particular ship designs. Now these ship designs will be available in your building queue in your systems. So once you design a ship, you can choose to build it. And there you have it, one turn to build my hay. Behemoths. What are behemoths and what are they used for? Basically, you unlock behemoths or via a quest in the game that is toggleable on or off depending on your preferences, or you can research them in the technology screen. You start off with the economic, scientific, or military behemoths. And these are huge ships, basically, that also have particular bonuses and particular modules, actually, which can mine planets, which can improve your FIDSI on your systems, which can exploit the special nodes on the map to obtain science or other FIDSI elements, or to mine specific strategic resources from special nodes. You may also terraform planets or reconstruct them. Let's say you were to colonize a system that you just got from the Cravers, and Cravers deplete planets. You can send a behemoth to restore that particular planet. Now, these ships can be converted into what are, let's see if I can do it right away. Yes, I can. So, bringing this economic behemoth to a system of mine, I can specialize the behemoth, and you get to specialize them in 3 different ways. You can either get an obliterator, a juggernaut, or a citadel. Now, what's the difference? An obliterator is a special ship that shoots a particular missile that destroys not a single planet, but a huge, an entire star system with all planets inside. Now, of course, the effects of an obliterator can be mediated by system shields, which are a particular technology, or even more by a citadel, which we'll see in a moment. The Juggernaut is a battleship. It is the most performing and the most powerful ship in the game. I actually have one in my army. Let me just show it to you. Yep, here it is. You can also see the outline of the ship. Maybe it's here. Yep, here it is. This is my Juggernaut. It has 108,000 attack points. That is beyond god-like war machines. My total fleet military power is 178,000. So the Juggernaut is actually making the most of it. Yeah, special ships, special military ships that you can bring with your fleets and just destroy systems. Here it is. A citadel, on the other hand, is quite particular. You transform your behemoth in a citadel, so you lose your original behemoth, but you construct basically a huge shield around the system that mainly prevents from obliterator shots, but also grants other unique improvements for the system, provides a native defense against obliterator projects, and also a natural guard on a system so that all incoming ships of other factions have to stop at least a turn in the system, so that maybe, I don't know, let's say you were attacked and you would have more time to reach the enemy and engage in a battle. So yeah, these are the types of specializations of a behemoth. We went already through the hero management. This section is the quests and events. You get to see your current quests that are active. You get to see the description and what is required to win. You can see your completed ones, your failed ones, and just a recap of all missions. Also, you get to see your active events, so those particular pop-ups that come up and maybe you lose track of, you can get back here. You can see what happens based on the choices that you make during the events that come up. Finally, the diplomacy. This is actually the part that I know less, if it was not to declare war or ask for peace or for a truce. The main thing to understand about, the main difference, I guess, between Endless Space and the other strategy games, mainly Civilization, that I played, is that factions in Endless Space don't start at peace. All factions are towards each other in a state that is called Cold War, which basically allows you and the other factions to engage in fleet battles, but does not let you attack star systems. To invade, to attack, to blockade, and to siege effectively a star system, you have to declare war, unless you have a particular religious law, which is called, I think, Righteous Fury, I think, that lets you siege a particular star system even though you're not in war. But the general rule is that in Cold War you may engage in fleet warfare, but not in siege systems. As soon as you declare war, you are capable of sieging systems. So you get to see all the other factions, you get to see which factions were killed off, and in any moment you may click on a particular leader, and this brings you to the diplomacy screen. My terms, their terms, pretty straightforward. I wish to request a trade agreement with this particular factions. The computer calculates the amount of availability by the other part to engage in such a deal. In this case, he is not particularly happy of this, so you may auto ask the other faction what is required to close this deal. And in this case, they would ask for a particular technology. And on the other hand, they would give me 11 pieces of the total 24 adamantium that they have. This section, you can see also the influence pressure that you may put on another faction or receive from another faction. And yeah, terms are divided into different filters. So the treaties, the resources, the technologies, the systems are specific to the Lumeris faction. Let me see if I can. No, here I can only do a truce, but just imagine that in these sections there would be a list of actually on their part there would be a list of their systems that you can buy from them. And here the contextual terms, it's called. So something particular happens, let's say they put some of their ships on your system, you may ask them to remove them. You may, given the amount of pressure that I have on them, demand a basic diplomatic demand. As soon as this maxes out, I may go into the advanced diplomatic demand. These are basically let's go back here. So are basically demands that do not require anything from my part in order to obtain from them, given the huge amount of pressure that I put onto them. So I can basically choose anything I wish. So let's say I wanted 11 of your blue cap mold, and if they refuse, I get to choose the refusal penalty. I can choose a diplomatic affair, which reduces their production of influence. I can choose economic sanctions, which get them minus 15% on them on food, industry, science, and dust, or a plus 200% military ship construction to them if they refuse. So let's just go with this one. It costs 0 influence. I'll make an offer. The computer works out. In the meantime, you can do something else. Let's just wait. Here they are, responding to my demand, and they concede to our demand because we are just so more powerful than them. Yeah, so that is basically it for, let's say, an introduction to the main pages of the game. I wanted to use almost ended game just to give you the most abundant amount of information given the advancement in the game, rather than just starting up a new game and not having all the information, because that would have been kind of strange. And I hope you liked it, and maybe there will be some more videos coming up. Endless Space 2, great game. You should definitely buy it. Bye bye.